Water, water everywhere, and all the dread to drink. Such is the new saying of Still Wakes the Deep, the upcoming horror title from the Chinese room that is sure to leave you soggy, what with its oceanic dive into fear and isolation. And while Still Wakes the Deep is currently keeping a lot of blood-soaked cards close to its writhing chest, that doesn't mean that we've not been able to pry some interesting details from its cold, dead hands. So grab your favourite knitted jumper and bag of tobacco and say goodbye to reality, as I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 7 things you need to know about Still Wakes the Deep. Number 7. The setting and plot of the game. When Rob McLaughlin told Xbox Wire recently that the elevator pitch, or escalator pitch as we know it here at FGS, for Still Wakes the Deep was the thing on an oil rig, there's a good chance that horror fans around the world felt their own blood getting a little frisky at the idea of an unknown terror sowing seeds of paranoia in its wake. Yet, it's not the only entity that you'll be fighting in the game, as the team has gone to great lengths to make sure the setting of Still Wakes the Deep is equally determined to destroy you. Isolated on a 1970s North Sea oil rig, poor rig operator Kaz McCleary must battle the elements, stubborn technology, and quite possibly an employer who sought to cut corners in the rig's construction alongside this new enemy. Comfort is a luxury the crew know little of, well, outside of a bit of period-accurate fluffy mackerel pudding, but even these tiny slices of peace will be torn away by the invading force, the harsh weather, and of course, the ever-growing tensions between the workers. Number 6. The game has got some rather unusual inspiration points. Despite the devs placing John Carpenter's The Thing and the novella Who Goes There as the main inspirations for Still Wakes the Deep's tension and atmosphere, it turns out that the Chinese room also drew from several other sources, some of which are a little unusual at first glance. From Rosemary's Baby and Don't Look Now providing touchstone moments for how the team wanted to create a sense of unease even when nothing inherently was going wrong on screen, and British TV show Sapphire and Steel informing the offbeat aesthetic and pacing that defined experimental TV and film of the 70s, it's clear that the Chinese room are seeking to make the player feel unnerved at every possible moment. Yet for all of the inspirations that breathe life into Still Wakes the Deep, the one that you weren't likely prepared for is Kes, a British film set in the 1960s in which a working-class kid called Billy is given a glimmer of a better life through bonding with a kestrel who he seeks to train, and which quite possibly will destroy you emotionally, just a heads up there. In the same Xbox Wire discussion, creative director John McCormack states that the way that Kes was shot and acted felt startlingly realistic to audiences, and it was this raw energy that they sought to recreate. Therefore, expect to see hardened people living even harder lives, authentic dialogue from the era, and accents aplenty, all under a looming and rather grim cloud. Number 5. You can and probably will die. So we've spoken about the beginnings and origins of Still Wakes the Deep, but what about how you can meet your end in the game? Because yes, unlike Dear Esther and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, you can and likely will die in this game. This is no mere walking simulator, my friend. This is an unnerving horror narrative that also isn't afraid to remind you precisely what's at stake. So don't go thinking that the stalking terrors from the deep are all mouth and no tentacles, as you are most definitely being hunted. Adding to this is the rig itself, which will crack under the stress of ocean storms, or thanks to your efforts to stop whatever it is that's now aboard. So desperate jumps and frantic scrambles to avoid being cast into the ocean below will likely be common. And to make all of this so deliciously worse, you can't fight back. After all, you're just one man, and what you're fighting against is so otherworldly you stand about as much chance as you would trying to swim back to shore from the rig. Good luck. Number 4. There's a ton of extra info right under our noses. If all of this information is stirring an ocean of interest within you, then you'll be pleased to learn that there's a running developer commentary on the making of Still Wakes the Deep that you can access right now over on their Steam page. The dev diaries not only give you an early peek at locations and hazards that will await you in the game, but you'll also be able to learn more about how sounds were chosen and mixed to create the awful wails that you'll hear echoing through the rig, and of how new technology is allowing the team to create realistic textures that react to rain and wind in lifelike ways. You can also learn about the scale and scope of the game, with the first developer diary noting the vast underside of the rig that plays host to the crushing waves, and that the views from the cranes and communication towers will induce all sorts of vertigo, meaning that while the game is set within one location, you'll be experiencing it from many different perspectives. So why not head over to the Steam page and learn all you can about this mysterious beast of a game. Number 3. Kaz isn't going to help you. Poor old Kaz, he's not exactly living an easy life before the events of this game. Not only is he missing his family aboard the rig, but he's also also in the shit, as one of his colleagues puts it, with his employers. This, plus the harsh living conditions and weather, means that McCleary would have plenty to moan about. Yet, when it comes to gameplay, the devs took a rather novel approach to his running dialogue. Namely, that they curbed it entirely when it came to puzzles and pointing out where the player should go. As detailed in a beautiful feature in Edge number 386, the team wanted Kaz to only speak on subjects that his profession aligns with, and for every other instance, he'll react as confused and as scared as you would when staring down an eldritch horror. Expect a lot of expletives, a lot of screaming, and also a rising terror that will cause Kaz to shake and mourn at the loss of his friends and home. If you were hoping that Kaz would solve puzzles for you in a manner similar to, well, every other modern video game protagonist, you're going to be left totally adrift, my friend, because this is down to you. Number 2, the team went hard with the research. If you thought that the period-accurate Scottish swearing was impressive, then the Chinese room has got another surprise right up its sleeve for you, and that's the frankly obsessive amounts of research that they did into actual oil rig design and build regulations. Now, this might not sound all that exciting, and in truth, I can't imagine that it was, but what it allows for is a setting that is as accurate as possible, which in turn sells the utter bleakness of existence aboard these rigs. It also allowed the team to learn of the emergency protocols that a workforce would engage in should the rig suddenly become uninhabitable, and this knowledge allowed them to completely and utterly mess with any escape route that you might envision. From setting the game in the 1970s when communication technology was severely limited, especially in remote areas like the North Sea, to having the events take place around Christmas, meaning that rescue resources and crew members were themselves scant, and even highlighting the cost-cutting ruthlessness of companies not bound as tightly by employee protection practices, means that the Chinese room are presenting a barren, bleak, and often unsafe playground even before the horrors begin to rise from the oceans. And number 1, the release date. And finally, we come to the really important question: when can I get my slimy tentacles on this spectacular looking game? And the answer to that, my friends, is early 2024, where Still Wakes the Deep will drop on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PS5, and best of all, it will be their day one for Game Pass subscribers on PC and Xbox, meaning that you'll be able to enjoy this haunting journey that will chill you to your core while you're also freezing your butt off here in the UK. Lovely stuff. And there we go, my friends. Those were 7 things you need to know about Still Wakes the Deep. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, and are you excited about this game? Let me know as well. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on the social medias on screen. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you are a massive ledge, my friend, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye.